Okay, so welcome to episode 37 of Paranormal Pendle, broadcasting to the Paranormal UK radio network at paukradio.com. So yeah, we're back after a break, and it's great to be back. I'm back with two of my favourite, possibly my two favourite guests of all time, Ash and Greg from Pursuit of the Paranormal podcast. I think it's about the third time we've had a chat on my my podcast. I think I've been on yours about 2 or 3 times. So yeah, it's always great to catch up, guys. How are you?
Yeah, very
great.
well.
Yeah, doing good, thanks.
Excellent.
Busy.
Yeah, well, you've got some big news, haven't you? Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on as soon as I could, because you're obviously, in a lot of people want to talk to you at the moment about your book that you've both released, which was real nice surprise when I saw it pop up on Facebook. I thought, wow, that looks, it does look really interesting. I've had a quick look at it. I must admit, I've skimmed it. I've not had a chance to read it properly yet, but I will do. But what I have read is really well put together, really interesting, and it covers massive area, doesn't it? It's all about ghosts of the United States of America, which of course is a massive area, isn't it? So what was the idea behind it then? What was the motivation behind doing it?
So I guess that kind of came from me. This is going back probably 2 years now when we actually started this project, because we were in the infancy of the podcast and we were doing one episode a week. Like we're doing, even doing that is going to be difficult, getting the time and everything. Just do one episode a week. And then we interviewed Jerry Pauly from the Hillbilly Horror Stories podcast in America, and we were talking to him and his wife who do their podcast full time, and they do episodes every single day. And I was just like, how can you do episodes every day? That's just crazy.
Yeah.
And some of their episodes are kind of shorter. You have like full length episodes over an hour, and you have short episodes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I like 10 length episodes. My drive to work is like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I like to put an episode on and it lasts the journey. Or maybe it's half an hour, drive to work, listen to the first half, drive back. So I had the idea with Greg of creating our own kind of shorter episodes to accompany the main episode. So our main episodes every Tuesday is usually an hour to an hour and a half. And I thought, let's do something that's a bit shorter form episode and put out on a Saturday. So we sort of had the idea, and I thought, I was just thinking, what could we do to create like a series, so each one's connected to each other. And I just started thinking that, so we both like America, and there's 50 states in America, one episode a week. That's a year's worth of content.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how it came about. And we both had the idea of just basically each state, alphabetical order, one episode a week, and we alternate each week. So then the research and preparing for the episode is not too much work. So the first episode, I would do the research. I would kind of lead the episode, and then Greg would research and lead the episode the week after. So we were only actually doing sort of one episode every 2 weeks each. So we had to research and prepare for. It gave us that time to basically get this content together. So we just decided to, and that's how it came about. It's just having this weekly episode looking at like a case or a series of cases in each state. Some well known and some never heard of before. We do prefer to kind of try and do lesser known stories. And one of the feedback I actually had today off one of the purchases of the book was they're quite into the paranormal and they watch all the shows and stuff. And they mentioned how they hadn't like heard these stories on their documentaries to watch and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's why I like to do it. It's stuff that you've not heard before. So it's kind of, hopefully there's like something new in there for everyone, because we cover a wide range of different stories that we'll go into, but that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah, because it's quite easy to sort of recycle the well-known stuff, isn't it? I mean, I found that, writing the 2 books that I've written. Can I ask you about that then? Because obviously it's a collaboration. So how did that work between you then, actually writing the book?
So, well, we actually took inspiration really from the episodes that we'd done. Because initially it was going to be almost like a companion bit. So if you didn't want to watch the YouTube videos, because we've done it in a video format, we've done it in an audio format, you could sort of read it. And so we kind of, essentially it became a big version of a small companion, and it sort of grew to, like Ash said, there's 50 chapters in it, which was 231 pages, something like 40,000 words. So we put a lot of time into sort of just putting the information that we'd captured in the episodes, but not necessarily word for word. It was just, okay, we covered this, so we'll research that for the book version rather than necessarily the just scripting everything we read out. So yeah, it was interesting, and then we obviously had to pull the photographs and do the artwork so we could try and make it into something more consumable for people who weren't really into YouTube, didn't really have the time.
I mean, people still want to read a book, don't they? You know, I mean, there are still, you know, there's nothing better than, you know, going to bed and reading a book or sitting in front of the fire and reading a book. You know, people still do want to do that, despite the fact that we're in this age now where everything's online. I mean, so basically, you'd sort of, Greg, you'd write the chapters then of the ones that you'd researched, and Ash, you'd write the chapters. All right, okay, right.
That would have been a sensible thing to do.
You would have thought we'd have planned it a bit better to do that, but no, we literally cut it in half and said, right, I'll do the first 25 states, and you do, and then we had a spreadsheet, and we had we knew who's doing what. We sort of monitored how many words we were doing, so each chapter's roughly the same length.
And then we kind of went through each other's. So Greg did the first 25, I did the second 25, and then we then went through each other's, and then made edits and added things that, for ones that I had done the research for, see anything I could add to it or something different, and it was a good collaboration.
Yeah, it worked. It did work well, actually.
It really doesn't surprise me that you were so organised, because it
surprises me.
Everything you seem to do, you know, right from the podcast and everything that you do always seems to be really well organised. So, you know, whereas
that's quite away from the truth sometimes.
I'm desperately trying to find emails that I sent yesterday. Together. So if I put you on the spot then, and I mean, you know, you're not going to be able to remember everything about every state, are you? But if I put you on the spot and said, you know, I don't know, New York State, for instance, or I don't know, South Dakota, you know, would you be able to sort of pick a story out of the air, or have I completely just bamboozled you with the oddest states I could think?
No, I mean,
or you pick a state then, if you know.
I mean, South Dakota, we talked about Deadwood, which was an old ghost town.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I asked, because Deadwood actually is I think is one of the most brilliant series that's ever been on TV. And I know that the town of Deadwood now relies heavily, obviously, on its history, but also the sort of paranormal aspect to it as well. So go on then. Tell me about Deadwood then.
So it's a literal ghost town. It's an old gold mining town that came prosperous when all the gold came in. All the businesses come to town, and then once the gold dries up, they all go away and move on to the next town, which was very common throughout, like, sort of the Midwest area of America. And I mean, I'm cheating. I've got the book in front of me, so I'm just finding the page to make sure I'm not just feeding out false information. So we talk about a couple of hotels in Deadwood. One of them is the Bullock Hotel, which was a brothel at one point, and that's got quite a few ghosts that haunt that, including Seth Bullock himself. Many guests report sort of all things happening, taps turning on and off.
Right.
They're seeing apparitions all in the hotel. And there's the Fairmont Hotel. Again, which is another brothel, which was very popular at the time. We had businessmen with money and to find some girls of the night.
Yeah.
And they've had the murders and suicides at the hotel. A working girl jumped out the window, it died there. There's a lot of death and tragedies like associated with the building, which has then led to sort of hauntings and ghosts being seen to today, really.
Yeah, well, it was a fairly lawless place, wasn't it? So, you know, there's going to have been a lot of incidents over the years, aren't there, where there's going to be a lot of you know, a lot of emotional energy and a lot of residual emotional energy. So you would imagine then that, you know, that's the footprint in it. That's the time stamp, as it were, where you can have these sort of different types of hauntings, you know, your recurring ones, and also your you know, your sort of more poltergeist type things. So
Yeah, no, definitely. I just want to show the artwork for the book.
No,
I mean,
it looks really impressive. I think that's something that people don't realize when you're putting a book together. And obviously, these days you can do it yourself on Amazon, as you've done and I've done. People don't realize just how difficult it is actually to get everything together. You know, you haven't got a publisher behind you to do it. So, I mean, who came up with the artwork then? Whose idea was it for the front cover? Because I think it's really striking. Was it you, Greg?
Yeah.
So go on. Where's the inspiration for it then?
Well, I just like I do a lot of the artwork for the episodes as well. So I just think, right, okay, US, we wanted for each chapter, like Ash was like, oh, I've got an idea. Let's get a map of the United States and we'll just color it in each state. So essentially that led to the cover of the book, because that's the whole map that features throughout. And I found some ghost overlays and a few different overlays and a nice background, and that was it. And I ping it over to Ash. It's like, yeah, maybe we could do this. So I backwards and forwards, and then we agree on it, and we're all going. It's pretty painless, really.
Oh, it looks great. It looks brilliant. I mean, what are your favourite states then? Start with you, Greg. What's your favourite state?
I've got two. Nevada.
Okay.
Obviously, I love Vegas, and it would have been easy to do Area 51, but we didn't. We done the haunting of the Luxor Hotel in Vegas, because it's got quite a dark history when it was being built, where essentially loads of people were dying during the building of it. I'll just call up some details, and basically it's always had a reputation as being haunted anyway. A lot of people, gamblers, if you've ever been into the Luxor, all the rooms are like round the outside and up the pyramid, because it's a pyramid shape, and you can see the lobby from some of the landings. So people have chucked themselves off or been chucked off the landings themselves, either during construction or during gambling. And essentially it was quite doomed from the start. There was a lot of money issues. There was cost cutting measures, which meant that the construction had loads of problems. It was built at half the cost of neighboring establishments like Mirage. So I don't know if you know Vegas.
No, I'm not.
So you've got the Luxor's right down one end, and you've got the Mirage Hotel next to it. It was rushed. It looks really cool. So it looks like a pyramid, and at night it's got a bright blue sort of light that just shines up into the sky. So it's very easy to see from sort of miles around. Yeah. But the problem is, because they tried to rush it up and cut corners, lots of workers fell to their death. Some of them have been left staying at the hotel forever, basically. There's reports, eyewitness accounts, speaking of paranormal activity within the walls, ghostly apparitions of construction workers, and a prevailing sense of bad luck have become part and ingrained in the hotel's history.
Which is not good for a casino, is it? Having a feeling.
No, there's like I said, there's fatal jumps.
For the casino, isn't it? Obviously, but not for.
It's definitely great for like a dark history, and it appears on a lot of like dark history places because it's so tragic. So yeah, people have had incidents, or like I said earlier, been pushed to their death. So that's my Nevada one. Right. That's really cool. And Utah was one place that we had to cover for Utah, and that was Skinwalker Ranch. Right. It's just a cool place. Everybody knows about Skinwalker Ranch. I think we would, although we tried to pick lesser known stories, I think from a Utah point of view, Skinwalker Ranch is sort of like the ultimate thing in Utah, apart from
to be in there.
the Church of Latter-day Saints. So, and the Mormons, because the Mormons are based in Utah. So, and they're not really on our kind of paranormal page. So, yeah. So Skinwalker Ranch was. So they're my two favourites for definite.
Is there anything around the Mormons then? Was there anything that you found around the Mormons? No, just
not really. There probably is. I was just fixated on Skinwalker at that point.
Fair enough, yeah. No, very interesting. Ash, what about you, mate? What's your favourite?
So for me, it had to be in West Virginia. Yeah, there's just so many different things or paths when gone down the folklore around so many different types of monsters and stuff. You got Blackwoods, Grafter Monster, all these different types of monsters, just so much folklore in the area. So I was like, took me a while to decide which one to pick, which sort of one I wanted to do for the episode. Then one caught me eye, which is something pretty different to probably anything else in the book, anything else we've sort of talked about, and that was an amusement park, the Lake Shawnee amusement park in West Virginia that just had a hell of a lot of tragedy. There, quite a few kids were killed by accident on the rides, and also just by one girl was hit by a truck as she was on a ride. In the swimming pool, a couple of kids drowned in the swimming pool there, and it's also built on a Native American old burial ground. So the theme park was actually shut down after more kids have been tragically killed there. And then
not good for business either, is it? Really?
No. And then so a guy bought it in the 80s, and then to try and reopen it, try and get it back up to being a popular theme park. And then when they were doing some work there, they discovered the body of 13 kids buried underneath the ground, believed to date back to sort of Native American time.
Right.
And it's been the apparition of a Native American warrior. You see him walking through the grounds. You hear, after the deaths of the kids, you always heard like kids crying and shouting for the mum when they were drowning in the pool and stuff, but there's nobody there. So there's all these different types of tragedies that happen there. So that one really caught me out. Something a bit different, that maybe not people that have not heard of before.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that the original owners, the people who built it, they'd obviously never seen Poltergeist, had they? I mean, it was probably built before Poltergeist. I mean, when was it built? Late 19th century, was it early 20th century?
Early 20th.
Yeah, around that sort of time, aren't they? Another one at Coney Island's around, I think that's early 20th century, isn't it? So it's funny, isn't it? I mean, fun fairs, just going off tangent a little bit. I mean, fun fairs they do seem to attract a sort of dark energy, don't they? It's quite odd. I mean, Blackpool Pleasure Beach has got an awful lot of stories attached to it, hasn't it? Of various different apparitions and entities, and you know, I mean, the one that always makes me smile is that you know, there have been a lot of sightings in the actual ghost train ride of a worker who, you know, similar story to what you've just been talking about, Ash, actually died during the construction of it. And so, you know, a lot of people have seen the apparition of this construction worker. So it is strange, isn't it, how these sort of fun fairs do seem to attract these dark energies, or the, you know, these ghosts that seem to have come to some sort of tragic end and seem attached to the places. It is quite strange, isn't it?
I think it might be to do the fact that these places, like a lot of places we talk about, have a lot of people coming through. There's a lot of human traffic going through these areas, and when you have a lot of human traffic, a lot of energy, and not all of it is good energy, and
all the and everything.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just like then trauma and tragic events happen, and it's just like a mix of just potentially like horribleness, really.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. So the book is where is it available? Where can we get it?
It's available on Amazon. If you search for Paranormal United States, which is the title, it's the first result.
Yeah.
It's available on Amazon. It's also available on our website, pursuittheparanormal.co.uk/shop. And we can also do signed copies through our shop. Because we have a book board that we can send out if people want it to be signed by one of us. And yeah, that's it really. I just want to say what I really enjoyed about writing the book was when we did the series for the podcast,
Mm.
I really enjoyed going through each state, trying to find these cases, learning new things. Then when we did like a year later, revisiting all these states and these stories and just finding out more. It took us over a year to write the book.
Mm.
And that was after a year of doing the series on the podcast. It's just really enjoyed just that side of it. It's really eye-opening as well into how to write a book.
Yeah, I mean, you do sort of wonder where the time goes, don't you? Because it just goes so quick. But no, I mean, I'm sure you felt, a great deal of self-satisfaction from doing it, because it is, it's when people said to me, what's your claim to fame? And I say, well, I've written a couple of books and they're on Amazon. People are like, oh wow, what sort of books are they? And once you've done that, it's there forever, really, until you pull it from Amazon, obviously, because you've got complete control over it, which is good. We've got publishers involved and that sort of thing. I mean, are there any plans for a follow-up? Any ideas? Yeah, I can tell by the look on Ash's face.
It's currently underway. We're currently
doing so. All right. Well, are you going to keep it a secret, or can you tell us what it's about?
I don't think it'd be a surprise to anybody. Potentially, I don't know. Do you want to say, Ash? We could do like a world exclusive. We haven't even talked about it on the podcast yet.
We've never really talked about it with each other.
No, we haven't really.
Don't spill the beans on. Don't spill.
I just sent Ash a message the other day. Said, "I've done chapter 1, and I'm working and the photos." And he's like, "What?" So yeah, we started.
Yeah, you do the world exclusive on your own. Don't ruin it by putting it on here. Let's have a chat then about because you two guys, I mean, I always find it quite interesting that you, Ash, are really into the UFO side of stuff, and you, Greg, are really into the paranormal side of stuff. And we know that there is a crossover. I mean, a lot of people, I do stuff on both sides of it, but there is obviously a bit of a crossover between the two. I think people are becoming more and more aware of that as time goes on. So from the UFO side of stuff, I mean, since the last time we spoke, there's been a lot of things in the news, hasn't there? Especially from over the pond. So what's your take on what's been going on, Ash, with the UFO stuff and what the US government's been saying and that?
So I mean, we've had these hearings. I suppose the most recent thing is these hearings and the David Grush testimony that he came forward with, and it's just been surreal to watch this Congress hearing and to have Ryan Graves, David Fravor, and David Grush under oath talking about these experiences they've had, these obviously providing the evidence and like the reports from the pilots that have seen the Tic Tac UFO side of it, and then you've got the Ryan Graves one from the East Coast, seeing these cubes and spheres, and saying all this on the testimony, which has never been done before. The David Grush stuff, again under oath, saying that he's seen or has provided evidence to close, obviously can't announce in public, but provide evidence to the intelligence community that there's crash retrievals happened of unknown crafts, and there's been non-human biologics recovered out of these crafts. And to be saying, just to hear them words in this setting, it's just been the most crazy thing. Like, we did a 2-hour episode like after that hearing, just digging in deep into each different section of it, and the main key points of it is non-human biologics recovered. It's kind of vague, but it's, again, the wording is just something we've never heard before. And also that and he's provided evidence that people within the intelligence community have been threatened, assaulted, even possibly murdered by higher ups covering up that they got this information. And to be saying that to Congress under oath, that they know this has been happening, like, that just blows open the whole conspiracy. And it's just been a whirlwind couple of months. It's just been absolutely incredible what's been coming out, what's been said, and further down the line, obviously more is going to be coming out, but it's just been mind-blowing what's been happening. And it's a lot of justification for people like us that have spent years putting a lot of work and effort and talking about it, trying to get the information out there, have all this, and to have it all hit in the mainstream papers in a non-jokey manner where they're actually reporting on it.
Yeah.
And on all news TV shows around the world, all reporting it as a proper news
Yeah,
feature rather than like a and finally section.
sort of sensationalist, a bit of fun at the end of a broadcast, which is what a lot of them tend to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been proper, like I say, proper news reporting on it, and even in the UK, they've had a lot of stuff front page as well about it. It's just what will come of it will be interesting, but it's been a ride, a wild ride.
Yeah, definitely. And I've managed to get into UFOs a lot more.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because they talked about David Grush a lot and as being like this main whistleblower, and the two guys side by side with him were referring a lot to him and sort of was sort of saying, like, referring stuff to David Grush, saying that you need to listen to him. But I didn't realize, I know David Fravor, Commander Fravor, he's the guy that spotted the Tic Tac UFO. They were talking on another podcast about his credentials, and they were saying that it's like the Black Aces are they're like the top fighter pilot squadron in the world, well, America, but in the world. And David Fravor is like the commander of this fleet, so he's like Tom Cruise in Top Gun. He's that level in the new Top Gun Maverick. He's like this top fighter pilot, probably the best in the world. David Fravor is that guy in real life. So if to have him alongside David Grush as well, just saying, we can't even imagine getting close to these objects. They can outperform anything we've got. And for him to say that as well, and he's one of the guys in the planes, is phenomenal. So
I think the interesting thing for me is what Ash was saying about the biological aspect of it. I mean, that opens up a whole discussion, doesn't it, about what they found. Have they found live ones? Were they dead in crashes? What sort of I mean, what are they talking about? And if it does, basically a statement like that just changes everything. If you believe what they're saying, then obviously that then proves that there is life outside of Earth, which is a massive thing. I mean, it's got religious ramifications, it's got social ramifications, and the way that we are at the moment in the world, I mean, we are teetering on the brink of either climate disaster or something equally as bad that's man-made. I mean, are we really ready, do you think, for somebody to actually put up a photograph and go, look, there you are, that's a photograph of an alien that crash landed in Nevada, and was that, well, was either dead or alive, it doesn't really matter either way. It's still, well, it does say alien, obviously, but it's still proof that there is alien life out there, and that would change everything, wouldn't it? That would absolutely change everything.
It would, and I mean, this is like the whole disclosure thing, sort of. It's been on everyone's like tip of the tongue for the last 30, 40 years plus, but nothing's really come of it. But it seems now, past couple of years especially, it does seem to be like a sea change where we're actually getting stuff from the government and from these high level intelligence officers.
What do you think the motivation behind that is then? What's the sort of word in the community about the motivation?
I mean, there's lots of different theories. A lot of people still go behind the disinformation aspect, saying they're purposely leaking certain things through certain people and then discrediting them people. So that so you think it's like, oh, we're giving one hand, but then taking it away with another. So kind of settles people for a little bit. So it's like, oh, we're giving you something, so we're kind of leave it alone, and then we give you a little bit more, kind of keep everyone quiet. But there's a lot of pressure from within and outside the government. I think the more people are just waking up. Like with the hearings, I was blown away by the questioning, by the types of questions and the wording coming from the representatives, and they either know about this stuff and have an interest, which is one story, or two, they obviously been given the questions to ask, but just the whole wording, how serious they take it. They've clearly done either their own research or have people do that research for them to come out with these types of questions. So some of the questions, I was sat there Like, so I watched the whole thing. It was 3 hours long, whatever it was, watching it live. I
Mm.
was just like open mouth, like, oh my God. And I was like, and some of the answers, I was like, fist pump in the air. I was like, go on, gosh. It's just absolutely incredible. And that's,
Just to back that up, Ash was sending me mess. I was at work and I'd get a notification on Messenger just saying, "Oh my God, this is insane."
it was. And like I say, what the end plan is, whether it is just because they're getting a lot of pressure from both inside and outside government. The leaks were happening all the time, quite a lot. Like the did that video and that initially was leaked. It took them 3 years to actually say, yeah, that's our video. More whistleblowers coming forward. They've now got this whistleblower protection that's coming in place to help people come out more to give us information. So I think some of it could be maybe have to give information because they're sort of controlling how it gets released because they know it's going to come out anyway. Maybe they're trying to take that control of the release of information. It's going to come out eventually, so let's do it our way, rather than just saying nothing like they have done for decades and then just other people leaking it.
So how's it been received by other governments, do you think? Because I believe that our own government has had files on this sort of thing for years. And it's obviously, top secret, classified information that you wouldn't get hold of normally. Obviously, if you want something that, there's a certain length of time, isn't there? Is it 35 years or 40 years or something? And then you can put an FOI request in, a freedom of information request. But with something like this, it's so high level, top secret that it would never get released. So I'm just wondering what the thoughts are in other governments about these revelations, because as you said, I mean, they are significant, aren't they, in what they're saying?
Yeah, I mean, speaking from kind of UK side point, they still talk about we have no information, we don't know if it's a threat, we don't have anything that sort of deals with this. But then you've got both legislation that came through the NDAA, which says we share information with our allies, we work with our allies, which I think biggest ally of the US is us. So surely that includes us. And then you've got with Grush and other whistleblowers and documents saying that there have been meetings with like the Five Eyes, which is us, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, where they have had meetings talking about this stuff. So one hand, UK and other governments saying, no, we don't do anything with this. But then the documents and legislation saying that, yeah, actually you do. So I think, again, it's only going to be a matter of time before the UK kind of has to give into that pressure and say, oh, actually, yeah, we have been privy to this information or privy to some of it at least, or been involved in some meetings. Because it is a threat. They treat it as a threat. That's why they have these programs to identify it and figure out what it is. They can't identify it. And surely, even just being part of NATO, it's all the same airspace. We all work together. Surely, if they're trying to figure something out, they will enlist the help of other countries. You think there's no way that they wouldn't?
No.
So, and I think it will just be a matter of time before we do find out that we have been all this time.
And of course, there are other governments that are a lot more secretive, aren't there? So, the Russian government, the Chinese government, I mean, there's information to suggest that they've got equally as high number of sightings and from their military as well. And I believe that there's been a massive increase in sightings of unidentified craft that behave in a way that you would expect a UAP to behave around the conflict zones in the Ukraine, which I think is interesting. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
There's a lot of videos come out recently around Baghdad and Mosul. There was a Mosul orb video or photograph, sorry, that had been put out purporting to show a sphere going over Mosul. It didn't look like that to me, but it wasn't until about a month later that I looked at it again and said, oh, I can see what they're saying now. There's a sphere, just like a hole in the ground or something to me. But then they've released a few frames of video where they've got spherical objects going over militarized zones around the world, which is quite insane, and video footage of that from military craft or military observers or drones or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So it's that in itself is quite weird, because that kind of technology, if it was a foreign adversary had that kind of tech, you would assume they would be using it for their advantage in the battlefield. And bearing in mind the kind of people that are in the current Ukraine conflict, people like Putin and Russia, even the Wagner group or whoever you believe is fighting, if they had technology that could outstrip anything that the US have got, they would be flaunting it. They would be. I can't see why they wouldn't be using it.
No, it's a very good point. That very good.
Yeah,
point.
why wouldn't you be using it in like the battlefield of war?
Yeah,
when
I mean,
you've got it's just. But then they're showing objects going across in like like an infrared on a FLIR camera, like multiple photographs, and it's showing stuff that would normally show white as hot, and there's no white behind it. What appears to be like a pan of waves or whatever behind this object.
Not your sort of propulsion system, in other words.
Yeah, so there's no means of propulsion that is giving off any kind of heat signature, for example, and that is quite insane. I think if a foreign adversary had that, like I mentioned, they'd be using it. Why wouldn't you?
Of course,
you would dominate.
And if you had that sort of propulsion system as well, you'd be landing on the moon and strip mining it, wouldn't you? Which is
of course you would.
A lot of these countries are looking at now. I mean, it was I found it quite amusing, and hopefully I'm not going to get shot by some KGB officer for saying this, but I did find it quite amusing that the Russian lander had a bit of a bumpy landing. But I mean,
and then the guy who designed it suddenly had a medical incident shortly after it went pear-shaped.
Did he fall out of a window by any chance?
Quite possibly. Yeah. It wasn't the fall that killed him, it was the ground.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, the ground came at him too fast. It's funny, actually. I was just saying to Ash before we went on to record. I went to Cuba on my holidays earlier.
Good to see. Very nice.
Well, yeah, it depends which way you look at it. It was.
I don't think the write-up of the food was that great from
your
post.
No. But there was quite a lot of tourists from Russia, and I was utterly convinced that I was being tailed by an FSB agent for the first week I was there, because everywhere I went, this guy's face was there. Breakfast, at the pool, on the beach, at the bar in the evening. When I went to the toilet, this guy was there, and he looked. Strangely enough, I actually nicknamed him the Russian Daniel Craig, because he looked like Daniel Craig, but he was Russian. This guy was everywhere I went. So there were either lots of clones of him, and he had about 3 or 4 brothers that all looked the same that were all on holiday with him, or he just happened to be. But it was the weirdest thing. It really was the weirdest thing. I was getting really paranoid. My wife Sarah was laughing her head off. She thought it was hilarious. So yeah, that was quite interesting. But no, I mean, do you think there's going to be any further fallout from this end? Do you think this is just the tip of the iceberg, or do you think we're now going to just be sat on this for the next few years, like we do seem to do with a lot of these revelations?
I think more is going to come out. I mean, so much has been coming out where you think surely we can't just keep having this information, because you can go for years with nothing. And the last couple of years has just been bit after bit after bit after bit, and I think that will continue. Yeah. There's a lot more people interested now. There's a lot more people within the House in America that's interested, and they're gonna keep pushing it. I think that we're gonna see more hearings possibly before the end of the year, if not next year. We've got the new legislation coming in, which is going to have more. Yeah, basically more things coming through.
What's always surprised me, though, or what's always made me think, is the fact that we know that the presidents are briefed, aren't they? American presidents are briefed, and I'm sure it's the same, in this country. I'm sure the prime minister's briefed. The moment that the new prime minister walks through the door of number 10, I'm sure the head of the cabinet office sits him down and says, "Right, Sir Keir, hopefully next time, we've got something to tell you about aliens, you know. Now when you look at the American presidents we've had of late, I mean, there's one that really can't keep his mouth shut. I'm just surprised that from that such a high level involvement. I mean, you know, the presidents know, don't they? They've been briefed, and some of them have let it slip. You know that they do get briefed. They do get told about aliens and UFOs, and they do exist. And there's sort of like been the odd little slip from ex-presidents who've said that. I think Bill Clinton let something slip, didn't he? That they used to get regularly briefed on these sort of things, and that, you know, the information that they had would never get out into the public because it was so spectacular in you know, in what they had. It made Area 51 look like child's play compared to what, you know, what they've found recently. So I do find it strange that something's never been leaked like this before. Having said that, I think it's great that it's now come out and they're taking it so seriously. And I mean, who knows? You know, there may well be more revelations to come.
I mean, there's conspiracy theory around JFK that he was killed because he was about to release some stuff that he'd been told.
Yeah.
I think Barack Obama also spoke about it a little bit. But I think because going back to sort of what David Bush was saying in the Congress hearings, was that there's these projects, this black budget groups that don't have any oversight, just kind of above the sort of House of Representatives, where no program should be. Because any money that gets spent has to have an oversight committee that says, yeah, we can spend this money or we can't. Whereas these secret projects, don't have that oversight. And that's technically illegal, and that's why. And he's provided evidence. And he said that he can name people, the locations, names of projects, and that he's provided all this to the Inspector General. And and some of this stuff you got to think, because presidents can sometimes only last for 4 years. So do they get told everything? Because these are only temporary, where some of the people within the government are there for decades and decades overseeing this stuff, whereas presidents are temporary for 4 years, 8 years. So do they get told everything, or do they keep the really stuff,
the really juicy stuff?
Yeah, above them. Like I say, the previous president, he for sure wouldn't. He'd be on Twitter straight away, I think, if he had that information.
Yeah, because he doesn't have a filter, does he? So you know,
he'd be bragging over little Rocket Man that he got these stuff. You can just see the.
He might be tweeting from a state penitentiary at this rate. No, it's interesting, and it's something that you know, if there's any further disclosure, then I'll be banging on your door to come on again and have a chat about it, because I do find it really interesting. It's fascinating. Have we had any sort of sightings recently in the UK that are noteworthy that you've heard of or have been reported?
Nothing super noteworthy. There's a couple last year. I mean, we still maintain the database. We have the biggest database in the UK of current day sightings. Not going to lie, we are behind a little bit just because I've been working on the book and other projects, which I'll go into in a minute. But last year,
you don't have to announce money, you know. You can keep it for your own podcast.
But I mean, last year, we had sightings were up last year. There was 497 reported sightings in the UK in 2022. Wow. And Greater Manchester was the most popular area.
Was it? Ah, that's interesting.
Last year, just beating the southwest.
Yeah.
Southeast, sorry, not south.
That's interesting, yeah.
And Greater.
Is it because it's more populated, do you think? That there's more people looking up at the sky?
Well, it is a reason, because we do all the data, and each year we publish our annual report and we look at the data, we look at where sightings were, the most popular places for sightings. Yeah. And like Greater Manchester comes up on the northwest, because obviously northwest, Liverpool, Manchester, Preston, very quite tightly populated areas. And again with the southeast, around Kent and then places where, again, very densely
High
populated.
population, yeah.
But as part of the annual report, we have a formula which works out a rate of sighting based on population density and sort of number of sightings. So it works out basically, and so it works out number of sightings per 250,000 capita.
Okay.
So start taking into consideration population density. So it kind of takes that out of the equation.
Right.
And then we see in the annual report, we have two leaderboards. We have sheer number of sightings in one column in like a table. That's got northwest at the top and the southeast up there.
Yeah.
And then we have the column next to it, which is rate of sighting, which takes population density out of the equation. Because you have more people, like say, more people just to report it. And then the table, you can see how the table changes.
Yeah.
So I think the southwest jumps up quite a bit, and the northeast jumps up quite a bit because they're less densely populated.
Yeah.
On a comparable basis, do have more sightings based on population. So all the information, probably a bit hard ways of explaining it, but yeah. Also, we look at that in the each year we have our report looking at the previous year's data.
So is that available on your website for people to just go and have a look?
Yeah, that's on ufoidentified.co.uk, and we've got the past 3 years annual reports in there. You can like 18, 19 pages to pull graphs and stats and charts and stuff, and just look.
But does it tend to be urban areas then that are seeing more? I mean, when you take the population equation out of it as well, would you say it's more urban areas or more rural areas then that are seeing these sightings?
It can just stay to be more urban areas. I think Scotland always seems to have a high number of sightings as well, and that can be quite obviously spread out across Scotland. There's not that many big cities, but once you get past sort of Glasgow and Aberdeen, it's not really much. We do get quite a lot of sightings from like Bute and Argyll up that way.
All right, okay.
But then there's correlating with that is there's a number of military bases out in Scotland.
There are, yeah.
Especially around that way, and whether that's what's being seen, because people in these rural areas are seeing strange or unusual craft, and that's being reported as UFOs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just trying to bring up the
it's interesting. Because I mean, obviously there's certain areas. I mean, we're obviously quite familiar with the Northwest, or I'm quite familiar with the Northwest, and obviously areas such as Winter Hill and Pendle Hill as well has had a lot of sightings over the years. It's actually, I've not heard much recently. It's gone fairly quiet around here. I'm hoping to speak to a couple of local UFO guys again shortly, so they might be able to correct me on that, but I've not heard of anything recently. But I mean, the Northwest certainly seems to be a bit of a hub, and obviously the Northeast as well. The Northeast coast is fairly active as well. So it's just interesting the spread, isn't it? The sort of hot spots really, I think is what I was trying to get at. If there are any hot spots.
I mean, because I was looking at now we have a year by year breakdown, and the Northwest, every year very sort of similar high numbers, as does Yorkshire, but again quite dense populated with some big cities, especially all clumped together.
Yeah.
And there's Northwest, Southeast, Northwest, Yorkshire, Scotland, so they tend to be the places. And kind of talking about rural versus urban. So the Southwest, which I think includes Cornwall, Devon, quite open.
Yeah, like
lots of countryside.
Bodmin and Exmoor and places like that, yeah.
Yeah, so they, on the rate of sighting, they're actually top. If you take the sort of population out of it, they do top the table for the most amount of sightings.
That's interesting because I've been down there and I stayed very close to Bodmin Moor. And it was last year when we had the heat wave during the summer, unlike this summer, obviously. But there were very clear skies and it was so black. There was no light pollution at all. And you could literally see everything. And I noticed, I mean, I'd be led out, on a deck chair at 1 o'clock in the morning with, you know, something fermented to drink, looking up at the sky, and the number of shooting stars and the number of what were quite obviously satellites, but if you didn't know, you would think it could be something else because the sky was so dark and there was no light pollution whatsoever, so you could see absolutely everything. And I suppose, you know, you could see things that you could mistake as something, you know, UAP. I'm not saying that that's what's happened with all of them, but there's a possibility because the sky's that dark, you can see absolutely everything, and there's a lot of stuff goes on up there that you wouldn't necessarily see in a sort of city because of the light pollution.
Yeah, for sure. And sort of on that point, one area of the UK which always comes in pretty low on both tables is London. They were second bottom in just number of reports made altogether, considering how many people live in London and the Greater London area.
Yeah.
They were second bottom in number of reports, and they were dead bottom in the rate sightings report.
Right.
And whether that's just because London people are busy, no one obviously got light pollution, probably the worst place in the UK for light pollution.
Do they too much, really?
People are probably just too busy.
Yeah.
London's a very busy. I don't like London. Everyone's in a rush. Everyone's.
I just had 3 days down there last week, and I can concur that it is ridiculously busy and ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
To a northerner like me, it was a bit of a shock to my wallet. But no, that's interesting actually, because I mean, you think probably light pollution plays a big factor in that, you know, because it's such a large urban area. But then, you know, if you're getting a lot of sightings from sort of Greater Manchester again, I mean, Manchester's a big conurbation. You've got a lot of light pollution there, so it doesn't necessarily explain it, does it? Maybe it's just people are different, and as you say, they're more busy and they don't have that inclination to stand there and look up at the sky. I mean, if you just stand there and look up at the sky, you'll get bulldozed by God knows how many thousands of people walking over the top of you, won't you, in London, because it's that, you know, it's that busy. So yeah, it's interesting. What about the paranormal side then, Greg? Is there anything been interesting? Have you done any interesting investigations since we last spoke?
Yeah, so me and Ash, just a couple of weekends ago, we had like a weekend full of paranormal investigations. So we went out with one of the guests on our show, or a regular contributor now to our show, Michael, and some of his friends, to the Museum of Haunted Artifacts in Stoke-on-Trent.
Okay.
I think that's the name of the place. And yeah, we very interesting place. That started off our weekend, and we were getting a lot of sort of sound anomalies, sort of banging footsteps in what essentially is a museum of all these weird artifacts. They got Ed and Lorraine Warren sort of bits and pieces of paraphernalia. They've got the front door from 30 East Drive in the room. They're like haunted dolls. They all sorts of things. And then on the first floor, they got loads like swords that have been used in beheadings and executions, and loads of just like death masks. There was an Aleister Crowley death mask or something like that. There was.
It's interesting.
Oh, no, that was at my haunted hotel, I think, actually.
I was going to say, it's interesting how objects can hold on to this sort of energy, isn't it? I mean, I'm really interested in haunted objects per se, mainly because I've got a piano downstairs that we've talked about that's a little bit on the old side, to put it mildly. Still continues to be that, but I won't talk about that on my podcast. I'm more interested in what you can tell me. But yeah, I mean, there are. I mean, dolls, for instance. I think a lot of people get creeped out by dolls, don't they? And haunted dolls, especially. There is something particularly unnerving, I think. So
yeah, so there was haunted dolls at Stoke, and like the normal sort of like weird looking clowns and such like.
Yeah. Clowns.
And that place was really weird. Like all the artifacts were like you got body bags in this asylum area, and yeah, it was like used body bags. There's a mortuary table, like a slab, metal slab, just like the weirdest stuff you could go into, and it gave good results for us. It was a really interesting night.
Good.
We tried to debunk a lot of the sounds.
Mm.
So that the video of that is actually up on my girl's YouTube channel, Paramike. So that's worth checking out, because it is a good video anyway.
Yeah.
About what happened that night. And then a couple of days later, we went to My Haunted Hotel in Chester.
I've heard of this place, yeah.
Yeah, so we were super excited to go there, because we've spoken to one of the guys who runs the paranormal side of what essentially is a normal pub, Danny Moss. So he's been from Haunted Hunts and other like Amazon Prime channels and shows and whatnot that they've done. And so we've been chatting to him for a long time on the podcast. Multiple times we've been talking about stuff. And he said about doing a podcast up there. So we went up there, and we were fortunate. We got a load of footage. It's a place that everybody seems to go to, and everybody talks about it afterwards. It delivers. And some of the stuff that we've captured, knockings on command, and then we'd say, can you just do that again for us, just to confirm you did it? Bam, straight away. Then there was other like tapping noises, knocks at the window, clear knocks at the window.
Knock on the door was one of the most.
Knock on the door.
Crazy ones for me. It's literally you're in this room, and door's just a couple of feet to my left. There's two closed day knocks on the door. And with My Haunted Hotel, they have, and there's 26 cameras covering every room, every corridor. And when you're doing investigations in the rooms, the team that run it are in their control room. They watch all the cameras, and we have radio connection with them. So we've got on the radio and said, someone just knocked on our door. Can you just check the footage? So he's like, okay, give us a couple of minutes, I'll have a look. 5 minutes later, he comes up with his phone to show us the footage. It's got us in the room. The room next to us was empty. And showing us the footage. The corridor outside our room's empty. You can see our door. And clear day on the footage, 2 loud knocks on the door. It's like there's just nothing that could have explained someone knocking on the door when there's nobody outside the door. And that was just one of the sort of evidence that we captured. There was quite a lot that we got through the night. Just absolutely insane night.
Yeah, right from the moment we got there, pretty much. We moved out of our sort of the room we were like, was our sort of like base room. It was just every time we moved to a different area, there's like a massive oak table in the brothel area, which is like just off the bar. And I mean, I was sat at one end of it. I didn't hear or feel anything. And there was Ash, and the person that was with us was all of a sudden there was this bang on the table, and the table moved. And those two were like, "You just moved? Did you just did the table move?" And I'm like, "Nope." And they're like, "Did you move it with your foot?" Because that's what they thought. I might have kicked the table.
Yeah. But
it's such a big table, and I was sort of sat there in this throne at the end, obviously. But there was I had a massive gap before there was a table leg, so it would have been visible that I'd have had to push my leg forward. And it clear as day, we've got the video. We need to put that up on our channel. Actually, it's been on My Haunted Hotel sort of like paywall featured programming, and clear as day that the table bangs from underneath. You can see it happening, and Ash's camera's on the end, and it just shakes, like shudders where it whacks up. And this table's huge. It's not a small table.
Wow.
So that was one of the many highlights that night. It was just a great night. And like Ash said, where you can get on the walkie-talkie and instantly validate or debunk what's just happened.
Yeah, they can replay it on the cameras or whatever, or back to it. Yeah, that's interesting. That yeah.
So no, we were time stamping stuff and everything.
Yeah. I've heard all sorts of stuff about the place. So I've had plenty of people said you really must go and check it out. So yeah, definitely. So how's the podcast doing? Because that's where this empire started, isn't it? I hope you've not neglected it.
Far from it.
with
Far from it.
all your other stuff that you've been doing.
As you'll know, it consumes everything. Just trying to get guests is a challenge in itself. That is half the battle. We're fortunate enough that we've got a lot of people that we know now from the community, both UFO and paranormal, that we've been speaking to for a long time, and organically we get emails from people asking if they can come on and chat about a book, whether they can come on and talk about their experiences, or we reach out to somebody and say, well, I've seen your story online, do you want to come and have a chat to us? And we're very fortunate that people are quite open for that now, which is really good. So it's still a challenge, and as you know, it's an almighty challenge, but we're still pumping out at least one episode a week. Mainly, it's normally two, but
we've not missed two for.
No, we haven't actually, and we haven't missed an episode. At least one episode a week. We have not missed for nearly coming up 3 years now.
Yeah, that's really some going, because
yeah.
I mean, you have to have a passion for it, don't you? And you have to have an enjoyment while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And you know, any outside factors can really sort of influence how you feel about doing this sort of stuff. Because you're right, it is all consuming, but it's great that you're in a position now where people wanting to come on the show, and are actively seeking you out, which I suppose helps a little bit, doesn't it? When you get in.
Yeah, it's still trying to tie up the times. We get a lot of people contacting us from America.
Yeah,
and trying to tie up the times, and and with daylight savings over there, and
we missed an interview last week.
We missed one the other last week. Yeah,
Greg got the time wrong.
I was an hour wrong.
Were you an hour out?
Yeah, I was. I was an hour behind. The guy messaged me and said, "We're just about to go on. Are you going to join us?" I'm like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
So it is a challenge at times, and then all the social media, and then trying to reply to everybody on. Like, I get Twitter notifications all the time, and I don't even know what's going on half the time on Twitter. I'm just like, I get notifications, and I'm like, I'll try and keep up on it, and then
writing a book,
and writing
the book,
and your secret.
We've got a couple of secret things coming up actually,
as well. So.
Yeah, we've been trying to tease. we put a teaser picture up.
Yeah,
about a week ago of a forest, basically.
Okay.
With a question mark, and
well,
let's
leave it to people's imagination then, Alice.
We could probably say not what it is or anything.
Okay.
But
world exclusive.
After September the 1st. We will know exactly what it is that we've got, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It probably doesn't make sense. In my head, I know
it doesn't make sense to me.
No.
So on September the 1st, we are doing something.
Okay.
And the outcome of that project will start to come to fruition. And you'll see it not just from us, I'm imagining. Let's just say that much.
Ooh,
that's good enough, and
absolutely. Well, no, that's definitely wet.
And that we've not told anybody.
No.
That's the closest we've come to telling anybody.
Excellent.
So,
no, thank you. No, that's really piqued me interest now. I'm sure a lot of
it's something different for people who are involved in it with us. So,
excellent. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that then. So apart from Pursuit of the Paranormal podcast, just remind me again of your websites.
So UFO side of stuff, we are ufoidentified.co.uk. We have the biggest database of current day UFO reports in the UK. And we recently, last weekend, when recording this, so middle of August, we were in the Daily Mirror.
Oh, right.
Basically, there's an interactive map that the Mirror, we were working with the Mirror for months.
Right.
Getting this map put together. And it's an interactive map. You put in your postcode, it tell you reports in your area, and you can click and all this stuff and all the UK. And then that was pushed out to all the local reach sites, so all the live, 7 Live, whatever live, pushed out to all them resource sites. So we had massive lot of media interest when that was released.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing I can tell you about, as well as this book, Paranormal United States, I've been working on my own book for the past 9 or 10 months.
Okay.
And that is based around UFO reports in the UK in the last, well, since 2020.
Right.
Okay. And that's going to be released in mid-September. That's going to be over 100 UFO reports that have been made in the UK since 2020 and that haven't been released anywhere else. So it's like exclusive UFO reports.
Excellent.
And a load of data to go with that. So that'll be my next book.
Brilliant.
We'll be out in a couple of weeks, which I've been working on.
How do you find time to live?
I don't even know. We both have full-time jobs.
Well, exactly.
I don't even know how.
Yeah. No, brilliant. So have you got a title for that, or have you yet to decide?
Yet to decide. I think if one I'm thinking of is just UFO identified, the reports 2020 to 2022.
Okay.
So basically 3 years worth of sightings made in the UK.
And is that going to be released again through Amazon, or?
Yeah, that would be self-published through Amazon. I've learned a lot doing this first book. It's very complicated. And you upload the manuscript, and then when you look at the preview, it's nothing like before. And you have to go back and edit. And...
Yeah. Tell me about it. It's an absolute nightmare. Yeah, I know. Sometimes you just think, bugger it, I'll just put it out as it is, even if it's spread over 2 pages. No, for people who've never tried it, the Kindle publishing app that they use is a little bit tetchy, isn't it, to put it mildly. It's not the easiest thing to manipulate. So no, good luck with that. I'm surprised I've got any hair left. I think I've pulled mine out when I've been trying to use that damn thing. That's obviously where you've gone wrong, Greg, isn't it? No, it's been brilliant. So yeah, and then you've got UFO Identified website as well. Sorry, Pursuit of the Paranormal podcast website as well, which is
pursuitoftheparanormal.co.uk.
Excellent.
That's right, isn't it? I just suddenly thought that was wrong then. Pursuitoftheparanormal.co.uk. Yes.
Excellent.
And then you can get all of the US stuff on there. We've got the merch store, which we put new designs up quite a lot. The book you can get from there, which is posted free of charge in the UK. So that's the bonus. We can't quite compete with Amazon Prime, but we're getting there.
No.
And that's one good thing. So if you're listening and you're outside the UK, you can go to your local Amazon site and still get it through Prime. We've had somebody in Vegas order a book and it was there within like 2 days.
Brilliant.
Which blows my mind that they can do it that quick. It's insane.
Yeah, super. Excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you both on again. Thanks for coming on.
It's good.
Yeah, no, we've had a really interesting chat, and as I say, as soon as we get some more UFO stuff, I'll be back messaging you on Facebook or whatever to say let's have another chat about this, because I just get a feeling, as I'm sure you guys have, that something more is going to be coming soon. So let's all just keep an eye open for the next load of interesting information. And as I say, thanks very much. Good luck with all your projects. Good luck with the books. How many you're writing, I've lost count. I'm sure you have as well. But good luck with
more than we've said.
I can imagine. Good luck with all your investigations. Good luck with your research. Good luck with the books, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Definitely. And welcome back to doing some podcasts again.
Thank you. Yeah, traumatic doesn't even go into it. No, it's been great. It's been great to have you guys on. So yeah, take care. Thank you very much, and we'll speak again soon.
Cheers.
Greg.
Cheers.